What is up, everybody? Hazeblade here, and today we are going to be taking a look at the Firearm Efficiency Nicholai build, and we are going to be exploring a variant of this build today. So in my previous video, I was showing you guys how to do this with the miniature reactor and all of the large caliber barrels. We have a variant of this build today that is going to be taking advantage of shock absorbers and fuses to give you a little bit more time and a little bit more precision when you're lining up your shots as Nicholai. So I like to call this the Sharpshooter variant. But it's going to be pretty much the exact same setup. So you're going to be using Relentless, but you can actually technically use stars if you want to, because we're not really relying on Nemesis in this build, so that's entirely preferential. We're going to, of course, still use tracking rounds, Firearm Efficiency, as well as our turrets for Area 2 and 3. And then we're going to be using Shock Absorber 3 and 2, as well as Fuse 3 and 2 to give us a little bit more durability. That way, while we're under attack, we have the ability to continue dealing damage for a little bit before we lose our camera. And there are no changes to this deck. We're still going to be rolling with just the tracker mines, our air gun, our immobilizing rounds, our turret for the rifle, as well as the machine gun and the high caliber rifle, as well as the shield, discount, the energy booster, and the Firearm Efficiency mod. So, like I said, really only changes here is equipment, but this is going to give you a lot more control over that in the long term. So, as you're progressing through the match. So, if you prefer to deal a lot of damage, then obviously the large caliber barrel build is a little bit better. But, of course, we're going to jump into a match and just show you how this plays a little bit differently to the max damage build versus being able to actually control your cameras. And honestly, this one is a little bit smoother in my opinion, so we'll just have to jump in, and again, it's all preferential at that point. I think a lot of these variants that I'm going to be showing over the next couple days are really going to take advantage of just being more catered to whatever you're more comfortable with. So if you don't like your cameras being completely unusable while you're being shot, this might be a better build for you, although you're not going to be doing quite as much damage. I did experiment a little bit with gyroscope to see if I could get a little bit more damage out of it, and honestly, you can use shock absorbers in conjunction with gyroscope to get the damage boost. I believe when I was running it, it was definitely shock absorber 3, and then I don't remember if I was able to use 1 or 2 in addition to the gyroscope, but it worked out to basically be 20 points, and I had max shock absorbers, and I actually have a little bit more control with the gyroscope build and a little bit more damage, but my cameras were super low on HP, and I was finding that using the fuses makes it a little bit smoother. So I'm not going to dive into any preset changes or anything with this video. I've actually tried this with a couple different presets, and it seems to work pretty well, but we're going to be using the same preset as the core build that I showed in the previous video. So once we get into a match, we'll pick it up where we left off. All right, research facility. One of the worst maps for Mastermind. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a discount over on the second one to see if I can cycle for a sentry. There's the efficiency mod, which is good, but unfortunately that's not quite what we're going for. So I'm going to just cycle this, cycle that. We'll start with the air cannon.
This device may not kill you, but it may die searching for a way.
All right, that was a pretty good intro. Okay, let's see what he does. I can be patient for a second. You don't want to waste too much time with survivors because they're gonna know whenever you start disassembling cameras and stuff. So one of the pieces of advice that I would recommend sticking with is if they're trying to play the waiting game with you, it's more often than not just not worth it to try waiting, because at that point other survivors are just tackling objectives. And meanwhile, you're not really getting anything accomplished as a mastermind. So.
Dangerous toys now. I have met rocks that move faster than you.
All right. Very nice.
The door is locked, and the seconds of your life tick away.
All right, so we're going to be waiting on the other side of this door. Very nice. Tyrone is going for the door. Sometimes the air gun doesn't quite clear. Doesn't always clear the railing there.
Easy. Do
Unfortunately.
not be pleased with yourself.
All right, so they've got all of the keys. They're just waiting for Jill to return the key back to where it goes. I'm not gonna play anything else. I'm gonna just let them go because I don't have a lot of bioenergy right now. The best that I might be able to do is see if I can cycle out some equipment real quick, just to get things a little bit cheaper.
Be afraid,
Trying to get a discount on stuff while you're prepping for areas can sometimes be advantageous, so you can chain things a little bit later. The only thing that sucks about what my situation looks like right now, though, is that I have immobilizing rounds and air cannon, and in a more ideal situation, you would actually want those to not show up at the same time. All right, so that's a little bit better. At this point, we're just kind of waiting to see where they're going to go first. I'm probably going to blast the air cannon off. I don't want to spend too much resource, too many resources either. So I'm gonna be patient with this part and try to just see if I can isolate them. All right, so I've got Nemesis up. Now, Nemesis isn't exactly crucial to this build. However, he does have some good utility. All right, so as you can see there, I'm shooting my weapons, and it's not affecting things too terribly.
No problem.
Like, I have pretty good control over...
Good plan ahead. Run, hide.
I have pretty good control over my cameras, even though I'm being shot at, which is exactly what we're going for. Now, Jill has the key, and I will be waiting in here for her with the key. Well, maybe not. Alright, that's fine. I'll be waiting here. They still don't have everything that they need quite yet, and I'm gonna save Nemesis for when they're a bit... I know that they're grouped up right now. However, I think there's more I can do. I think there's more I can do at a later time with Nemesis. And I also don't want them to go the opposite direction, so I'm gonna kind of... I'm gonna kind of take my time through this.
Stand still, and I will end the pain from you.
Alright, so Jill is running ahead now, so I need to get out of there. So I think this is probably going to be the room where I end up using Nemesis. I'm going to wait for them to waste some ammo, and I'm going to pop the shield. Ah, I was too slow. That's alright. That's alright, I've got one more spot. I got a little bit greedy there. That was on me.
And the seconds of your life tick away. Let me put a bullet in your skull. It will be over.
Alright, here's a blinding flash. I can use that if they end up taking out this camera before I have a chance to retaliate. You're getting a bunch of free time right now. I'm trying not to feed them too much time. Alright, now is a great time for Nemesis.
It feels no pain, and will end yours forever.
So they had Tyrone's buff up at the moment, but this is the only device that I have to protect. So I'm just gonna hang out here and just try to wait him out a bit. What a waste of a rocket launcher. I wonder why Jan decided to just... I got Jan. Jill's kind of hanging out in the back. Tentacle side and see if I can deal some damage. Very nice. And pretty much all I gotta do for now is just kind of guard this area. I don't even really need to do any damage here. That was a good shot with the rocket launcher. Fantastic. So wasting their time, that's pretty much all I'm really using Nemesis for at this point, is just to waste as much of their time as I possibly can.
Now you will never see your death coming.
Okay, I'm gonna let them have this because it's just otherwise too expensive.
Stay a while.
Okay.
There's plenty of time.
I'm gonna set up a trap here if I can.
Feel confident. You are walking to your deaths, and the pain. The pain.
There's 20. And I should be able to take them out here before they get to the exit. If not, then they're gonna lose a ton of time. All right. So they were pretty sluggish getting to the exit, which means that I've got a very good chance of sealing the deal pretty much right here. So this build's a little slower. Even if you play well, it tends to be a bit slower than the high damage build, but you're essentially running them out of resources over a longer period of time. And so I think in a lot of ways it's kind of safer than the high damage strat, because if they just keep disabling your cameras with the high damage strat, they usually still have a ton of ammo left over. But with this strat, it should work out a little bit better to effectively burn them out of resources. All right, so I'm gonna launch the machine gun turret here, and that should take a good chunk out of them. They're gonna take that out. I already have eyes right here on my biocore.
Stand still, and I will end the pain for you.
I don't want to give them any free time, so I'm just gonna continue preparing setups here because they're really racing against the clock right now. I may not even need Nemesis here.
Let me put a bullet in your skull. It will be over faster.
Alright, I didn't quite make it to that. Yeah, I don't even think that I'm gonna need Nemesis here.
But you're not free yet.
That should do it. GG.
This is not your lucky day.
So that's a little bit of that Jill death animation was actually kind of funny. But that's a little bit of the Sharpshooter variant of the Firearm Efficiency build with Nicholai. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If that's a little bit more comfortable for you to have better control of your cameras, then this is definitely something that you can try. As you can tell there, you don't really need Nemesis for this build to work, but you can use Nemesis as a way to just waste a ton of their time, especially when you're only defending 1 or 2 objectives here and there. So I only actually needed Nemesis the one time, and that's why I was explaining earlier that you really only need to focus on dealing damage with your firearms. So regardless of whether you choose Relentless or Stars to generate energy for Nemesis, it's entirely your preference, whether you want him to just track automatically and deal some extra damage, or if you want to just get his cooldown faster. But that's going to do it for this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, don't forget about channel membership starting at $1.99 in select countries. And I will look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Take care.